A dark spirit now walks this world, rendering all that we once knew into an unknown commodity. As we become strangers in this strange land, we must walk carefully, where even the shadows have become dangerous, and the shadows are gathering closer around us. The time has come to face the darkness. It's now time to go hunting the shadows. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Come on in. We're having a special edition tonight of Hunting the Shadows. I'm your humble host, Dennis Carroll, and we are slowly gathering in the grotto tonight for our 2 hour seminar on how to hunt the shadows. Okay, let's say hello to everybody coming in here. John and Juno and Kyle and Rhonda and Scott's Life and my brother Midwest. We've got Aussie Sue and Shiro. Hello, dear. And John Fortman and Sweet Pea. And we've got Area 51. And we've got, let's see, we've got some more here I'm missing here. Hold on a second. Oh, yeah. Hello, Millie. And we got Kyle. If I didn't mention you, Kyle. Russell. And they're slowly coming in and gathering here. Now, we're going to do the same format that we did on our last seminar, okay? I'm not going to be interacting with you until about the last 30 minutes of our program, all right? We're a little bit late tonight. Had a few technical difficulties I had to cope with, but we're better late than never. So I'm glad you didn't give up on me. And I really appreciate you all being here tonight and coming in. I hope we're going to learn something together. I'm going to be teaching straight out of this book, Beyond the Shadows, a field guide to the paranormal. Okay, and that's what we're going to be teaching out of tonight. And I love these seminars because it's a great way to impress things on people's mind and get them to understand things. And we're going to talk about how you do investigative research, and not just armchair research, but in the field. We're going to be talking about that, and it's not just one field, okay? We're going to be covering, hello, David Lester. We're going to be covering the cryptid field as well, okay? Not just spiritual research, as I call it, or some people like to call it ghost hunting. We're not going to be just covering that. We are going to be talking about it, definitely, but it's going to be all the fields of the paranormal, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And to get that started, let me show you the fields of the paranormal here, okay? The 6 main fields of paranormal research, and I'll be showing this again later on in the seminar, are spiritual research, ghost hunting, demonology, cryptozoology, UFOlogy, parapsychology, and earth mysteries, okay? You might want to make a note on that and jot those down. Those are the main 6 fields. There are other little smaller fields. We're not going to be getting that deep into it tonight, but these are the main fields here. If you can do your research in any of these fields, you will find that they do tend to cross over each other every now and then. Okay, you have connections, and that's the main focus of our seminar tonight: the patterns and the connections we've got to look for. Okay, and that's what we're going to mainly be talking about tonight on a lot of this stuff. But we're also going to be talking about how you go out in the field and all that. Now, these are the subcategories of study. These are the things that you need to know. You don't have to try to be expert in them, but these are the things you know that you can apply to the 6 main fields of the paranormal, and that's folklore and superstition, archaeology, history, anthropology, psychology, criminology, the occult, investigative science, astronomy, metaphysics, religion, and yeah, that's it. I think there's one more, but I think it got left out. But anyway, that's the one we're concentrating on. Okay, let me take the banner off a second, and I get the bottom one here. There we go. Philosophy. All right. So that's the one we want to remember those, and I will pull this back up again during the lecture here, the seminar tonight. Okay, that's that one there, and that's the main one, and we'll be pulling those up again later for you. But I just want you to kind of get a glimpse on those and understand where we're coming at on this. And tonight, I'm definitely going to be talking about you're in the field stuff. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of conjecture out there that some of these people out there in the different fields think they can just sit back in an armchair, read a few books, and they become experts. Let me say this emphatically again, and I've said it many times in the past, and I will probably say it many times more in the future. There are no experts in these fields, okay? There are none. If somebody comes up and says, "Oh, I'm an expert in this paranormal thing," or "I'm an expert in that thing," they're lying to you. They're not telling you the truth, because there are no experts, and I'll tell you why. The basic reason why there are no experts in this is because this is an ongoing field. We are continuously learning new things, using new techniques, and I'm going to be showing you some of those techniques tonight. Utilizing different types of equipment, doing different things, okay? Just like if you pack out for the woods, you got to take different stuff in your backpack, okay? If you want to make a meal out there, or if you're going to stay that long, you better have a tent with you. You better have a sleeping bag. So you got to prepare for these things, okay? You can't just sit back in an armchair and call yourself an expert or even a researcher. That's part of research, but that's not all of research. That's basic part of it, but it's still not all of it and not the most important part of it. So I swear I draw a line with these so-called people. They don't want to do the boots on the ground thing, okay? They don't want to go out in the woods. They don't want to go to the houses. They don't want to interact with people. They just want to stay in their own little basement room, like some politicians I can mention, and think they can get by with it that way. They may for a while, but they are not helping this field. They are not helping us. They are working against us, okay? And let's all get together from this time on and say, hey, let's work together and not against each other. Okay, that's our main thrust on this. Paranormal unity goes across all fields, But I see a thing in the community today where some people are looking down on other people. Well, I'm a cryptozoologist and you're just a ghost hunter or something. They don't get along. There's an animosity between them. And let me tell you something. That's not good, because, like I said just a few minutes ago, these fields overlap each other and connect. And we're going to be talking about those connections and the dots and all that. I mentioned some of that today on Jessica, the Cryptid Huntress show that I did with her. We did a fantastic show. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We did one on the Palmyra werewolf thing. So check it out. But that's what we talked about today, that you've got to connect the dots. You remember that old game you had when you were a kid in school? They would give you a paper with a bunch of dots on it and the numbers. You had to go number by number to connect the dots. And when you got finished, if you did it correctly, you got a picture. You got to see some kind of an image or something. You know, it was usually a ball or something or whatever. But anyway, um, you've got to connect the dots. But let me tell you what's very important. It's how you connect the dots. And the way you do that is what makes it your complete research much better. Okay. And if you're going to be a researcher, do it the right way. Okay. You know, I've always said this. If you're going to do anything, I don't care if it's going to the grocery store, the supermarket to buy what you want to get, or whatever it is you're doing, do it correctly. Okay. It's a lot better when you do it the right way the first time. You don't have to go back and correct yourself. You don't have a lot of problems out of it. And that's the same thing with research. You've got to do it correctly and do it the right way. Okay. But let me tell you a little personal history of myself. Okay. I have been involved now. I don't say how old I am, but I have been involved in paranormal research and investigation for 52 some odd years now. Okay. 52 years. That's a lot of decades. Okay. I've been involved in this. My very first case, I was 15 years old, was a werewolf sighting. Okay. So, you know, you might say I kind of started in cryptozoology, but I began that whole route by demonology. Okay. By the demonological experience I had. But I've always liked the supernatural and all that. So that was always part of arrows in my quiver, you might say. But when I first began this long ago, I said, hey, I want to do this right. And I want to do this the correct way that will let me see what the real truth of the matter is, because that is our number one shining golden goal in all research investigation. The truth. Not what we think it is, not what we believe it might be, or what we hope it is, but what it truly is, the truth. And that's what we've got to go after. Always. That's our number one thing we're always looking for, that empirical evidence, the real truth that can't be denied. We can't go in hoping it's going to be this, it's going to be that. You know, I had a lady one time tell me, you know, I asked her, I said, you believe in Bigfoot? She said, oh, yeah, I believe in Bigfoot. You know, I said, well, why do you believe in Bigfoot? She said, well, because my friend told me it exists. I said, wait a minute. Your friend told you that, but you don't know for sure. You really, really don't know. You just believe. You're going to believe to believe. And she said, well, I guess you could say that. And I said, well, don't believe until you know for sure, find out for yourself, not what somebody else tells you. But what you can use that. You can use that information, what somebody else tells you, but don't let that be what guides you. You've got brains. You've got some brain cells. Use them. Investigate. That's what investigative research is all about. A lot of people say you do research and you do investigation. I like both of them together. I like to combine them because they are married. They should be that way. Investigative research should be what it's all about. And that means getting off your butt out of the chair once in a while to do it. Okay. So you got to remember that. That's the basic part of all this. So remember, that's what investigative research is about. Now, when I started out, I said, I need to know how to do this. Should I investigate like Sherlock Holmes? Should I, do this like Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys? You know, them was the only ones I was familiar with. I never was too familiar with Nancy Drew. I was more of a Hardy Boy guy, okay? But anyway, I said maybe I should go that route. That's okay, because they were using investigative techniques. But guess who made those techniques? Guess who came up with a lot of those techniques? Law enforcement, okay? Law enforcement and insurance investigators and people like that came up with the treatises on how to investigate. So I said, if I want to learn how to investigate, I'm going to the professionals. If you ever want to learn something the correct way, to be able to apply it in the correct way, you've got to get it from the professionals, okay? If you want to learn how to build a house, you don't go to a short order cook and ask him. No. And if you want to learn how to cook a hamburger, you certainly don't usually go to a roofer to learn how to do that. Okay. That's just the way that works. So you've got to go to the professionals to apply what it is you want to do. So I began poring over books on criminology. I began covering the books on investigative techniques and how to do this. I even went and talked to policemen. This was before I ever got into law enforcement, many, many years before that ever happened. And I went to there and I learned their techniques. I poured over books. I learned how they looked at things, how they collected evidence, how the chain of evidence went down the line, and so on and on and on. It's fascinating stuff. And I advise you to at least look it over good and get some of its techniques in mind, because it will help you. And to this day, when I go to investigate, I look at the scene as if it were a crime scene. What took place here? What happened? I want this area to talk to me and tell me, not me tell it. I want it to tell me what happened here or what may happen here, okay, being as the case may be. Now, when you run into a situation, and there are different ones, you don't investigate the very same way with cryptids that you do with ghost research, okay? You don't do that. You use different techniques, but they're basically at heart all the same stuff, okay? But you just have to go about it in different ways, because you are actually molding your investigation to the way it needs to go, okay? But remember what I said earlier. Don't let belief, don't let your opinion get in the way. Let it talk to you. Observe everything. Try to connect the dots that are there. Look for the dots. Then you can, once you find the dots, you can connect them. But you got to find the dots first. You've got to look for the evidence. You've got to collect it. A preponderance of the evidence is what you're looking for. And you know, I've always done this. I've always envisioned in my mind. As a matter of fact, I have a set of them sitting over here on my shelf. A set of scales, okay? And when I collect the evidence, I put it on one side against to the opposing side. I have an opposing sides, okay? This is okay, and this is more convenient. I put it in there, and when they balance out the way I want them to, then I can start making possible conclusion to that, okay? But that's what you got to weigh. You got to weigh the evidence and see where it comes down, positive or negative. You got to see which way it's going. And that's what you got to do. You got to keep those scales in your mind while you collect the evidence, the clues that you're looking for. It leads you a lot of times to the real evidence that you need. This is where you come in with that. This is how you do it. And you got to use certain techniques to collect this stuff, okay? And there's some ways to do it. Now, in the book, I have a lot of diagrams. I would like for you to get a copy of this. If you don't have it, you need to get a copy of this. If you're thinking about going out in the field, especially, that's why it's called a field guide. I know a lot of people pack this book out in the field, okay? They take it with them because it has very valuable diagrams and stuff in it that you can go by. And in my own humble way down, I'm going to try to show you some of those diagrams, okay? But that is the investigative techniques, and that's how you begin the mindset that you get to hunt the shadows here, okay? To do the investigations that you want to do and to complete those investigations for a correct conclusion. I want to tell you something, folks, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck here, but there's a lot of people out there in the paranormal community that has to draw these red circles around these things they think they see. Let me tell you something. I'm not going to do that. I never have done that. If I have to draw a circle around something to get you to see it, I got a problem. That's my problem, not your problem, okay? If you can't see something clearly for what it is, there's going to be a lot of supposition there, okay? People are not going to believe you. And let me say something that you've always got to keep in mind as an investigative researcher: your reputation, okay? Your reputation is paramount. It must be untouchable. You got to keep it in a place where it can't be scarred up or beat up. You got to have that reputation remain as unblemished as possible. And the way to do that is to get things in the correct order, to look for that, what I said, that shining golden goal of investigative research, the truth. Do not fool yourself into believing something what you want to believe. Give yourself real evidence to back it up. Let me say something what Carl Sagan said many years ago. It's very true. The absence of evidence is not evident, is not the absence of evidence. Listen very closely now. The absence of evidence is not evidence of the absence. Okay? It may be there, you just may not have found it. Okay? But don't go off making up your own kind of stuff to go with it. Okay? Don't fool yourself into believing something that may not truly be there. And I have a lot of people get mad at me for talking about this because they get these, they think some of these images are manifesting things or whatever they are. They don't have the evidence to back that up. I want to see the evidence. Okay. Let me say this, and I used to have my own personal saying. Okay. What do you believe? I believe in the evidence. Okay. Let me say that again. I believe in the evidence. You can come up all day long, show me pictures, show me this, tell me this, this, and this. I said, unless I was there, I cannot vouch for it. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying I wasn't there. I can't put my reputation on the line and vouch for something that I was not there to see, or I cannot back up with what? Evidence. That's what you're looking for, the evidence. If you go out looking for Bigfoot tomorrow, and you like me, I've got plaster casts that you cast the like 16-inch feet footprints. Okay, you've got evidence. You've got evidence there, or you're with somebody and they see Bigfoot with you. You both see it at the same time. You've got collaborative evidence. That's what you want. Okay, that's why you should never hunt for these things alone. You should always have somebody, because it's better if you've got two eyewitnesses because they back each other up. You understand what I'm saying? That's hard evidence. But just take my word for it, that's not real evidence. Really, you can't say that 100% evidence, although you might believe Dennis a lot. You might say, I believe that guy, he knows what he's talking about, but you still don't have the hard evidence. But if two people come up and say, yeah, I saw it with Dennis, that collaborates me, see? That gives me the real evidence I need. So that's why you should always hunt with somebody, okay? Don't do it alone. I've done that. I'm guilty of that, doing stuff alone, okay? But don't do that. You need somebody with you, definitely, to back you up in case you see something. Or if you come up on evidence. If you both come up on that footprint, you cast it, you both collaborate that happened, that's hard evidence. That's what you're looking for. Okay, that's the golden grail thing there, okay? That's what we're going to get. But you can't go on supposition. You can't say, well, I believe, or it's my opinion, I think it might have been that or something. I've had a lot of people come up to me, look at this photograph, look at this, that's a good. I said, well, that's interesting, but I can't really give you an opinion on it because I was not there, okay? I'm not calling him a liar. I just was not there. And I cannot put, and I don't want you to put your reputation on the line for something like that because it's not worth it, okay? Because there are a lot of hoaxers out there. Oh, yeah, more so now than ever before. And that is a big minus, a big hardship on our profession, okay, that we've got to work against because these people are out there perpetrating these hoaxes, trying to get something on us and all that. That's not good. And we've got to be very wary of that, very wary of it. It's like a trap. I called it sort of like a game trap out in the woods. If you step in it, you done had it. You've had it, unless you won't take your foot off to get out of it. I mean, you're in a bad situation. Do not step in that trap, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there putting out traps for you. Don't think they're not. And they will try to get, even if they think there's some money they can make out of it or whatever the situation. You would not believe how many hoaxers in my career I have run into. I could write a book about it. That's how many hoaxers I've run into. So they're into it to either write a book, make money, or think they're going to be a Hollywood star, okay? That's what it's all about with some of these people. They're not hardcore, real investigators. Okay, those are the glory hounds. We got to watch out for them, okay? Because they will trip you up. They will ruin you. They will destroy your reputation. They don't care. They don't really care. So watch out for the glory hounds. They're out there all over the place. Don't run into them. If you run into them, avoid them at all costs. Don't have anything to do with them. Don't buddy up with them because they'll take you down with them. Okay? They don't care. That's just the way they operate. So very, very important that you remember to guard your reputation as if it were made out of gold, because it is in many ways. It's better than gold. Okay? And you got to remember something about your reputation. No matter what you die with in this world, I don't care how many millions of dollars you have, how many fancy cars, how many ex-wives you or husbands you leave behind, whatever you leave this world with, there's only one thing you can take it with you, and that's a good name. And that's your reputation, okay? And don't let it get soiled, definitely. But anyway, moving along. The crime scene, definitely the way the professionals do it. And now you've got to break what you're at, whether it's cryptid research, and I'm going to be talking a lot about more cryptid research, but whether it's cryptid research or it is ghost research, if you want to call it that. I like to call it spirit research, but whatever. If it's ghost research, let's take it as a perimeter. Now, when you investigate, you want to use scientific techniques, okay? And I'll tell you why. No, we're not trying to be scientists. We don't have degrees in science. That's not the big thing. The big thing is you use investigative scientific techniques to ascertain a lot of times what you see is happening. And the number one thing is you got to look at something as if it were an experiment, okay? Now, let's say you go into a room, square room like that right there, okay? Let's say you walk into that room, and here's the first thing you do. Something has happened in this room, okay? You've heard reports of maybe something being seen, things being moved, or whatever the situation is in this respect. You've been told that there's some kind of haunting paranormal activity going on in this room. It's a good idea not to let them put too much in your mind. Just say, just give me the basics. Don't go into detail. Give me the basics and then go in and look what it is, check out what you're trying to see. But when you go into this room, no matter what shape it is, I'm just giving you a square room. You go to the center of the room. Okay? That's you in the center of the room. That dot is you in the center of the room. You go to the very center of the room. And then you look around you and you divide that room into 4 quarters. In your mind, while you stand there in the middle, you divide that room into 4 quarters. Now, when you go to do your investigation, you want to start with 1 quarter. You want to go to 1 quarter right here, like this, right here. You want to go to 1 quarter, okay? And that's where you want to begin your investigation. You want to really look this quarter over, make sure there's nothing out of place and all this stuff. Give it a good going over. Then you go on to the next quarter and the next quarter and the next quarter. And by the end, instead of just randomly walking around the room, you have completely covered this room if you take all 4 quarters like that, one at a time, okay? This can be done if there are 2 people. You can take 2 quarters, the other person take 2 quarters. Whatever, however way you want to do that, this is the way you begin a preliminary investigation of an area, okay? Now let me tell you this. The same thing can be done outside in a cryptid investigation, but you got to do a slightly different thing about it. Let's say you go into an area of the woods, you immediately think of a circle in your mind, okay? And you are in the middle of the circle, like that right there. That's where you put yourself, and you give yourselves landmarks. You pick out 4 landmarks on the perimeter of that circle, okay? You pick out 4 landmarks, and then you draw an invisible, I call them wheel spokes, to each one of those landmarks, okay? And when you've done that, then you take each quarter of that of those landmarks, each quarter of that land, until you have completely covered that whole area. And what are you looking for? Well, that's the main thing you got. That's the main thrust of what we got to talk about here. What are you looking for in that room or in this area outside? Okay. If you're doing cryptid research, whatever cryptid is you're looking for, whether it be Dogman, whether it be Chupacabra or Bigfoot or whatever, or Goatman or whatever, this applies to all of them. This is how you take your area, okay, that you want to investigate. You look for signs. You look for something out of place. Maybe a pile of nuts somewhere, or acorns, or leaves that are disturbed in a different way. You observe everything, okay? Observe everything. How the limbs are placed, limbs that are laying there. If you find some standing up, if there's an X or whatever, you note that in your notebook, okay? You need to be, here's number one thing, I want to tell you this right now. I want to stop and say this to you. Everything needs to be recorded. And I mean with a camera, with video, and with sound especially. And you need to either be recording this or writing the stuff down, okay? And I would advise you to write it, because that way you remember it better, okay? But record it if you need to. That's fine. But all of this needs to be recorded in different ways. You need to take 100 photographs while you're in this circle. You need to take video of every quadrant of the circle. You need to talk about it. You need to record sound in case you hear something. Whatever the situation is, that is your experiment, okay? That is your perimeter, whether it be a square room or an outside area, just like this right here. That is what you're going for, and that's the way you take your technique. And the reason why you do this is that it helps you in your investigation, because it gives you complete coverage of that area. You can just walk around randomly, but you're liable to miss something doing that. That's why it's better to have a perimeter. It's like an experiment, a contained experiment. You want to keep in that perimeter, and you want to investigate it thoroughly. This is how you do it. That's one scientific technique. The second most important scientific technique is something occurs in that. Okay, let me give you a quick example. Let's say I'm outside looking for Bigfoot, and I'm in the middle of this circle, and I hear a noise. I hear maybe something like something being hit up against a tree, okay? I start looking for the source of that noise, of course. Immediately you start looking for that. Don't run from it. You want to go towards it. And you want to exactly find out why that noise is taking place. So like I said on Jessica's show today, everything, my friends, in all of these fields, everything in this world has an origin. And that's what we've got to go look for, the origin, because it tells us everything we need to know. Okay? It will give us the history we need. And we're going to talk about history in a little while here. That's very important stuff. But here's the second scientific technique. Can you replicate it? Okay? If you hear that noise, can you take a stick and hit up against a tree and say, is that what I heard? Maybe you got it recorded. You can listen to it again. Is that what that sounds like? A stick hitting a tree or a rock being thrown or what? That tells you a lot of what's going on in your perimeter. Okay? You may not have ever seen it. You may not have seen that rock thrown, or you may not have seen that stick being held against a tree, or that limb broke, or whatever the situation is. You may not seen or heard it, but you may have it recorded. That's why it's so important to record everything. I would not dream of going on a field investigation that includes in a house or outside without photographic and video and sound recording. I would not do it, okay? I mean, what's the use? Those are the three most important things you can do. Then we have the technology to do it. Once upon a time, we didn't have the technology to do that, but now we do. And they're very important things to do. Take 100 pictures. That's okay. It doesn't cost anything to take the pictures, okay? Or take as much video as you can. Take as much sound. Take pictures of everybody around you that's in a group or whatever. You never know what may be interacting with these people, and you don't see it. The more you record, the more likely you are to pick up some of that evidence you need. And so don't forget that. It's very important. When you look upon this in a scientific way, can you replicate something? That's what science does. If point A, something goes from point A to point B, and then it squiggles a line going there, they want to find out why it's doing that. So you have to replicate it. You try to do it yourself and see how it turns out. And that's a very important part of scientific technique. Can you replicate it? Or will it happen again? Will it repeat again? And here's what I tell people. If Bigfoot's been seen in the park next to your house, don't go to Burger King looking for him. You want to go to the park. That's where he was last seen. Well, that makes perfect sense when you think about it, but some people have a problem with that. You go to where he was seen, he might be seen there again. You've got a better chance there than somewhere way off 5 miles away. You've got a better chance of seeing him again in that area, okay? Don't forget that. It's very important. Always give yourself the favor of the odds, okay? Always give yourself favorite odds on these things, and you'll come out better in the end, definitely. But anyway, that's how you apply some of these. There are other scientific techniques I won't get into tonight that you can do that will help you understand what's going on in that area. Okay. But once you canvass this area completely, and this is the way law enforcement does it, there's been many, many hours I have spent going around in a park looking for evidence, and I do it in this pattern. Okay. This is a pattern that you got to follow to do it because it keeps you from missing something. Very important. It could be one little thing that you would never dream of that can tell you what happened here, okay? Or if you find that rock that's out of place. You know, when you pick up a rock and you know it's out of place, how did it get there? You know, that's the questions you got to ask. What's it doing here? So when I go out in the woods, especially on cryptid hunting techniques and all that, I watch out for things that are out of place. Odd things that should not be there. I've actually found tree leaves that came from no tree that was around there. There has to be a reason why it's there, you know? There can be different reasons. I'm not saying Bigfoot dropped it there, but I'm just saying you've got to begin to wonder what's going on with that situation. So that's why I say the other rule is observe everything, because the tiniest detail can be very important. Okay, don't cut yourself short on this. Okay, always observe everything, whether it's in a house, at a haunted location, whether it's cryptid research, whatever the situation. Observe everything. Try not to let anything get past you. Keep your head on the swivel and your wits about you, because you need those things. I want to tell you something. When I go into investigative mode, okay, I'm a different person. I'm like a hound dog or something. I'm like a bloodhound. I'm on a scent. When I get on a scent, I become a different person because I become not obsessed, but fixated on what it is I'm looking for. If you can control that fixation, it will work for you. Okay? Let it work for you. It will help you find clues that will lead you to the true evidence that you need. It may even help you find the evidence itself right there in front of you. You never know if you're lucky enough. That's what you've got to do. You've got to get in that frame of mind. Okay? And that investigative frame of mind. I've had girlfriends accuse me of that. I'd be with a girlfriend and she said, "Oh, you hear that noise?" And I said, "What was that?" She said, "Oh, you're just being an investigator." Okay. But I want to investigate it. I just can't help it. I have a compulsion to investigate that, to figure out what it is. Let me tell you a quick story about a little boy. And he was about, I think he's about 5 or 6 years old. He became fixated with his father's pocket watch. This was many, many years ago. And he loved that pocket watch. And his father would let him play with it sometimes. And one day he come to his father and he said, "Father, I have to beg your forgiveness because I took your watch apart. I wanted to see how it worked. I wanted to see what made it tick. I took your watch apart and then I put it back together. Go, here it is back, and it worked better than it did before." And the man was astonished. He said, "Son, you took my watch apart and put it back together?" And he said, yes, and it's working better now than it did before. And he said, yes, Father, I'm really sorry about that. And he said, oh, don't apologize, son. Just don't do it again, okay? And he said, oh, I won't ever do it again. That little boy was Mozart. Mozart was a genius, okay? That's the way these things work. If you have to take it apart to figure out what it is, maybe you need to do that sometimes. I've done stuff like that. Make sure you can put it back together, though. Mozart was smart. He put it back together, and it worked better than it did the first time. But don't mess up stuff by doing that. But sometimes you got to take in the most intricate parts of something. Just like that diamond I always talk about. You have to hold it up to see as many hundreds of facets to it, as many different sides to that diamond, to be able to appreciate the whole diamond. Okay? That's just the way that works. And that's the way investigative research works. You've got to be intricate with it. You've got to see every aspect of it. You can't just pick up something and look at it and say, oh, well, okay, and draw a conclusion to it. You're cutting yourself short again, okay? You're not doing the right techniques. You need to really explore that item and make sure, just like a book, when you read a book, you don't just skip through it. You'll never know what the book was really all about. You got to read that book page by page, word by word, letter by letter, to understand what that book is trying to tell you. And that, my friends, is the perfect example of investigation. Okay? And that's why I'm telling you these different techniques tonight. There are different and better ways to go about this investigation. And that's the way law enforcement does it. That's the way military enforcement does it. This is the way that a lot of people who are in professions that do this do it. Okay? And that's why I want to do. That's why I want to press upon you the importance of that. But now, when you go into these areas, these physical areas, you've got to remember, like I said, it's like a crime scene. Don't mess it up. Don't go in, Here's the funny thing about it. You go walking out down through the woods looking for Bigfoot and going along whistling, playing with your stick, hitting limbs going by. Bigfoot is 10 miles from wherever you're at, okay? If he's smart, as I think he is a survivor. He's the world's number one hide and seek expert, okay? He's not going to let you see him. He's going to be 10 miles from your location, okay? You don't do that. You don't hunt deer that way. You certainly wouldn't go look for Bigfoot that way. Let's be smart about it, okay? Or Bigfoot, goat man, whoever, whatever it is you're looking for, okay? There's a correct way and a bad way to do this. Let's not do it the wrong way, okay? And you don't want to disturb the environment around you as less as possible. That includes being in a room or being out in the woods. You do not want to mess that crime scene up, because that crime scene is going to tell you a story. If I'm sitting under a big oak tree in the woods right now, waiting for Bigfoot to put in an appearance, I'm not going to be sitting there playing my radio or playing my cell phone real loud and just smoking a cigarette or whatever and waiting on him to show up. No. That would be a stupid thing to do, because he's, like I said, he's going to be 10 miles from your location. If he's smart, and I think he is very smart, he's not going to do that. But here's the thing I do a lot, okay? If you have to walk through the woods, you have to scout around, but there comes a time for you to shut up and sit down and just watch, okay? And here's what I like to do. When I get through walking around, looking around, see if I can find any evidence or whatever, I'll go back down the trail a little bit, and then I get off trail, right next to the trail, and I sit down, and I watch, and I wait. Because if something is trailing you, and a lot of times Bigfoot will be trailing you, watching, because you're in his territory. It could be Bigfoot, could be a mountain lion, could be a bear, for all we know. It's trailing you. You need to find out for sure, but you can go off and lay in wait for it, okay? We're not talking about ambushing. I wouldn't advise you to try to ambush him, but you can lay in wait to watch for him and see if there's anything on your trail. You might be surprised, okay? And you might get a good photograph that way, or whatever the situation. But a lot of times you're being trailed and you don't know it. But most of the time, and here's the thing about it, here's the glory, the glorious part of it all, whether you're sitting in a room waiting for something to appear, or you're out in the woods waiting for something to appear, it takes hours to do that, folks. Okay. We're talking about sitting there about 5 or 6 hours tops to watch for these things, or up in a tree maybe, or whatever, wherever your location is. You need to be quiet and be still for at least 4 or 5 hours. And everything settles down around you. The very atmosphere settles down around you. I have walked into haunted locations where I knew without a doubt what was there either went up in the attic or down in the basement. Because that's the furthest place away from you in that domicile. That's where they're going. And believe me, 9 times out of 10, that's where I find them. Okay? Because they're trying to get away. Why? Because you have disturbed their environment. That experiment we talked about, you want to keep it as pristine as possible. You don't want any outside interference in that circle in the woods or in that square of a room, whatever situation you in. You're trying to contain that area as if it were an experiment. You don't want any outside forces to contaminate your perimeter. Okay, that's very important. You don't want lights coming in. You don't want you don't want to be trying to take some kind of sound recording with some nutcase standing over there talking to his buddy about Burger King or something. That messes up your whole thing. You don't want to do that. Everybody's got to be quiet. You've got to be serious about this. You've got to take it in the scientific methods and do the correct walkthrough on this stuff, okay? And don't mess it up, because you might not get another chance, okay? That's what's important. You don't want to mess up your investigation, because this might be the only shot you ever get at it. That's important to remember. So it's also very important that you look upon that area and try to keep it as uncontaminated as possible. That includes being contaminated by you. Okay? That includes you. You're the big contaminant there. So when you go into the middle of that area and you've done your quadrant search, you need to go back to the middle and sit down and wait. That's where I go. Always go back to the middle. Why? Because you can observe everything better from the middle than from some side of the room or over there. You can do it better from the middle. Okay? Always remember that. That includes Bigfoot research or whatever. Things will be seen better from the middle of that perimeter. All right? It's very important you remember that. That's what we talk about in the book here. And I'm going to be doing some other stuff in this book here in a few minutes. But that's what we talk about. That perimeter that you must keep. The containment of your experimental station is what you're looking for. You don't want any outside lights or anything to mess up your recordings or your whatever you're trying to do there, okay? Even your observation. And observation is the big number one part of investigative research. Observation. You got to watch for things. You got to see if anything's out of place, or if you hear anything, or if you sense anything. Watch the animals around you. Do the birds acting differently? If you hear a couple of birds getting into some kind of a quarrel up there in the tree or something, what's going on with that? Or if a squirrel is acting differently, you've got to stay there and become part of that environment. And then you can really read what's going on around you a whole lot better. That's very important. And here's the bad thing about it, folks. A lot of people that are so-called investigators don't want to do this for the long haul. The glory hounds certainly don't want to do this. Okay? They don't want to take it seriously. Okay? They think, like I've seen a lot of ghost hunters go into a room and say, okay, I stayed in there 5 or 10 minutes and nothing's happened. You should be 5 or 6 hours that you stayed in there. Then you can tell me if anything happened. You can't just walk into a place and say, that's just like you think you've been watching these episodes of Ghost Hunters too much, where they just walk right in and the place is deadly haunted. No, that doesn't happen very often, okay? Doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen that way in real life, okay? And that's what you don't see in the part of the real ghost hunters and stuff like that, is that 5 or 6 hours they had to stay in that room before they got something. Okay, you don't see that part because it's boring, yeah. But you gotta do the long haul. That's part of your job. That's part of the price you pay for what you're doing. You got to be deadly serious about this. You can't. I have seen people take 10 hours of recordings and not listen to maybe 10, 15 minutes. I was like, there's nothing there. That's stupid and ridiculous. You got to listen to that recording for the 10 hours that you recorded it. Okay? If you don't, you're gonna miss. You might miss something very important. You might miss. You might miss a voice or a noise or something that tells you the whole story of what's going on here. That's not how you do investigative research. You got to be thorough, absolutely down the line, straight as an arrow, thorough on this stuff, or you'll never get what you're looking for. Now I know I'm making a lot of this sound hard. But once you get the techniques down, once it becomes second nature, it's a piece of cake. But you got to get to the point where it becomes second nature. When you get this frame in your mind, this mindset going, it will become part of you. And that's what I'm looking for you to do tonight. If you're serious about investigative, especially field research, that's what you got to think about, okay? It becomes second nature to you. It becomes a part of your being. That's when you become a real, true investigative researcher, okay? On whatever field it may be, all right? It's very important to remember that. But like I say, everything has an origin. It's good to find out where something began or how it happened or why. Investigate it. Look for it. Try to figure it out. It might be worth your while to do so. Definitely, because that's what you're truly there for. To understand, to investigate, and to ascertain and understand what it is you're looking at. That's the important things about this stuff. But now that's the main investigative techniques about the perimeters and stuff that you got to remember. And you can do this out in the woods. You can do it with it. You could do this with a whole acre. I wouldn't advise that though. But I advise you to cut it down in smaller things and take it that way. But if you will scour that acre doing this, using this technique, you will have scoured it. Okay, you will not have the possibility of missing everything. I don't know about you, but if there's one arrowhead sticking up out there in the field, I don't want to miss it. Okay, I'd love to be the one to find it. If there's one clue out there, I don't want to miss it. I want to be the one that finds it. I want it to talk to me and tell me its story, But let me say this. The main thing is you got to remember when it comes to investigative research is the mindset. Do not let the odds work against you. Use the odds in your favor, okay? Don't go investigating if you've only got a couple of hours at it, okay? That's just cutting yourself short. I mean, I would not dream of going on a Bigfoot hunt if I couldn't do it for at least 10 or 12 hours, okay? And then, maybe overnight or whatever. Go for the long haul, okay? It's much better when you do. It's okay if you've only got 2 or 3 hours to devote for it. That's fine. I'm not calling you up on that, but I'm just saying it's better. The more time you devote to it, the better stuff you get out of it at a time. Okay, that's what true investigation really is about. You can't be superficial. You cannot be superficial with an investigation. You've got to be thorough, and thorough takes time. Okay, it always takes time. And let me say this. You're not going to be, if you don't put your heart and your soul into it, okay, it's not going to work out good for you, It's like when you write a book, you put your heart and your soul in that book, okay? That's you, okay? And that's the way all investigation should be. You need to have your heart, your blood, your sweat, and your tears in it, and your heart and your soul in it, okay? Whatever you do, you will have a much, much more terrific outcome on whether you get evidence or not. You will have thoroughly enjoyed yourself. Now, when I tell you about all these techniques and how to do these things, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to say you got to do this and this is the only way to do it. What works for you, of course, is best. If it works for you, that's the main thing, okay? And the reason I tell you these things is because they work. I'm not going to tell you something that doesn't work. That would be stupid. I'm going to tell you things that will be beneficial to you because I care about your investigations and your research. I want it to be beneficial to you and not detrimental to you. Okay, that's the main thing that I'm telling you about. But have fun and enjoy it. Yo, that's a big part of it. Yeah, it's not all just hard work and all that stuff. You should be able to enjoy what you're doing. You love it. I've had a lot of people tell me that over the years. They'd come up and say, Dennis, I just love this stuff. I love it. I eat, dream, sleep, breathe it. And I say, well, I know where you're coming from on that. If you really care about something, you put your heart and your soul into it, and your time and your energy and your very being into it. There's nothing wrong with that. You will have a good return on that always, but you will come out as a better person in the end on it. So let's not be superficial about it. Let's be thorough. Let's be genuine, but let's have fun doing it. Definitely. We don't want it to be something we hate. If there's something that you love, whether it's writing a book or riding a horse or riding your motorcycle, whatever it is that really does it for you, do it, because we've all, our lives are short. Enjoy yourself. That's the main thing behind it. That's what we look for, definitely. And so don't let it all be, down and too serious, but you want to take it seriously because you want to do it correctly. That's the emphasis I'm trying to get across to you. You don't want to screw up with it, okay? Because you'll come out depressed by it and you'll feel bad about it and say, well, I just wasted my time. You know what? Time is a precious thing, my friends. Let's not waste 1 second of it, not even a half a second of it. We can help it on the mundane, superficial things. We need to be serious about the things that need our seriousness. And this is one of them. Because if you investigate, that's what you want. You want to find out the truth. You want the whole story. You don't want to go and tell anybody a lie about it when you think it's correct. You want to pass on the truth. You want your research to be something maybe that you can leave behind for others to benefit from. That's why you're recording everything. Don't do what I've done in the past. I have foolishly spent many years where I did not record the things that I did. They're still up here, though. The old tape player up here. But I should have recorded them on paper, or especially with a lot of sound, or whatever the situation. I did not do it. I could kick myself for doing that. I've had a lot of people say if there's one thing you could go back in time and change, what would it be? That would be definitely one of them. But I have a big talk with myself and say, you stupid dummy, you need to record every bit of this, every way possible. Because someday it may come in handy. You didn't think about it back in those days like you do now. But and there should have been somebody like me warning you. Because it's very important that we record everything, especially as time goes on, because our minds can play tricks on us. Our memory can trick us. So that's why it's very important. And I said earlier that you write everything down. I prefer you write down because it stays in your mind better. It puts an impression on your mind that tells you that, hey, this is important and I'm going to remember it, kind of thing. Okay. And that's very important that we do that, I think. So if you have a little diary, a field journal, field record, or whatever, have one and write the stuff. Write your impressions down. Even it doesn't have to be War and Peace. Okay, just jot down a little note every once in a while. Like, you'll be glad you did. Trust me, you will be glad you did that in the end. And that's a very important part of research. You got to remember to record everything. Everything should be recorded, whether that's photographic, video, or sound, whatever, or written, whatever the situation. Record it, definitely, because you're gonna wanna go back and review it, especially one day, or have some other researchers look at it. You might help them out immensely. It's like I think it was Newton who said, "If I've seen feathers, because I've stood on the shoulders of giants." And so have I. I have stood on the shoulders of the giants in this field, and I've learned stuff. I've seen feather. And that's okay. We need to remember that somebody's coming after us that may need some of this stuff, okay? It's very important that we do that. So anyway, the whole thing in a nutshell is if you do investigative research, there's another area of it that we're going to talk about now, and that is armchair investigative research. Okay, that's where you sit at home and do your research. Now, back when I was younger, back in the old younger days, I had to haunt the libraries of this town. The reference rooms were my territory. You couldn't take books home with you from the reference room. Okay, the books I could take home with me, I did definitely take home with me. But the main books that were reference books, you had to sit there and read them. Yes, I know that sounds terrible, doesn't it? You had to sit there and read them page by page and make notes if you wanted to so that you could remember stuff. I've done that many times. I have spent countless hours of my youth in those places, without a doubt. But now you have the libraries of the world at your fingertips. What I would have given for something like this 60 some odd years ago, that would have been a wonderful thing. But we didn't have it then, we have it now. You know, back in my younger days, we didn't even talk about stuff like this. It was talked in hushed voices in back rooms. You know, you didn't talk about much about the paranormal. People would lock you up. People were ready to put you on the funny farm. If you talked about UFOs or cryptids or what, they would laugh you out of town. You didn't have an open forum like you do now. Okay, that's a wonderful thing that we can sit and discuss things, especially like on a podcast, but we can talk about these things and get them out in the open. We did not have that, okay, and never had anything very similar to that. We had meetings sometimes once in a while, but like I say, you didn't advertise them. You know, it was word of mouth kind of thing. You had the books. That was the main things that we learned from the books and our own experiences. You know, I've even so old that one of our techniques was baby powder on the floor to see if we could get footprints or whatever. It goes way back, okay? And we didn't have the scientific instruments and stuff you have now. As a matter of fact, I don't play. I mean, let me tell you this, my own personal opinion. I don't put a lot of stock and store in scientific instruments because they can be wrong. They can be misleading, especially like a lot of these ghost boxes that people talk about. I have seen them fail miserably. The only things I really like were K2 meters. I kind of like them. And the best thing I ever had was a trifield meter. I still have it. The trifield meter is the absolute best scientific instrument right now that you can have for any kind of EMF stuff or whatever. EMF is important because it's not just ghosts supposedly doing the EMF thing. It can be other things that will tell you whether you're around a portal activity or some kind of magnetic anomaly or some kind of space and time thing going on or whatever. It's very important that you have a trifield meter. And I'll recommend that if you can afford one. They're not that terribly expensive. The other main piece of equipment that I have is a radiation detector. I have one of those, and those are very important because that tells you a lot too, to have one of those on hand. That became an invaluable thing to me when I was looking for lizard man in Bishopville Swamp. I picked up radiation readings that should not have been there. I don't. To this day, I figured that one out. It's almost like I was walking in Chernobyl there for a little bit, but I won't get into that tonight. But anyway, that's another important instrument. A radiation detector is definitely a plus, and of course, a good sound recorder. A good video recorder and a good camera. That's all you need. You can get your sound sometimes. A good recorder can be just on your cell phone if you don't buy like a good Sony recorder or something like that. I like Sony because it has good sound. You know, affordable. It's affordable in that respect. Anyway, the whole thing is, to me, the instrument is not what makes the investigation. Okay, you know, but a lot of people get hung up on that, and they say, "Oh, you got to have this, you got to have that, you got to have that." No, here's what you need, right here. It's already here, packaged and ready to go. If you train it the right way, it will serve you well. Okay, don't ever forget that. That's very important. That there. Okay, that's your number one instrument. Okay, and you trust your feelings on things too. Okay, you have built-in stuff in you that were put there by your creator. Pay attention to that. When something doesn't feel right, you get the willies, your hair rising up on the back of the neck, or whatever the situation is, pay attention to that. That's better than a scientific instrument, okay? The scientific instruments can lie, and I've known them to do that. They can get off, they can be uncalibrated, whatever the situation. But let me talk about armchair research, okay? The armchair research is going down rabbit holes, definitely, if you want to call it that. That's a very famous thing by Lewis Carroll, by the way. Alice in Wonderland, and she wasn't definitely through the looking glass and into the Wonderland. But the rabbit holes can be very deep. But here's the interesting thing about research. Rabbit holes can be connected to a tunnel of other rabbit holes, okay? They can go very deep sometimes. But here's the thing about armchair research that has gone with me throughout the years, and I'll pass it along to you tonight. And that's the fact is, stay in a straight line on it, okay? If you're looking for one certain thing, let me say, okay, let's say you're looking up Lizard Man. Okay, you're looking up Lizard Man from Skateboard Swamp, and you want to find out more about that because I mentioned it. And you start doing your research on Lizard Man. You may run into like the Loveland Frogmen, or you may run into some other stuff. That's okay. Read about it. That's fine, but stay online with the Lizard Man because that's your main thrust of research. Okay, you may be led off into other little rabbit holes. Stay in your main rabbit hole, okay? Until you get done, you can always backtrack and go back and look at the Loveland Frogmen or whatever it is you want to look at. That's fine. Write it down. Say, I want to check on that too, write that down, and you won't forget it. You can go back. Then that makes your investigative research more thorough, okay? But you need to stay on that straight line, and that goes with the physical investigation too. You need to stay on that straight line and don't deviate as much as possible. You can always go back to it. I'm not telling you to forget about it. No, go back to it definitely because it relates to that. Whatever relates to it, but don't let that be your main focus. Stay on your line. You can go back and look at the relation to it later and check out how it's connected or whatever. There may have been other sightings of lizard men, or there may be a connection with the Loveland Frogmen and something so on. So you need to investigate that. Yeah, definitely. But don't let yourself get distracted in the wrong way. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Stay on course and don't let yourself get distracted. It's very important that you do that in your research. And the more books you can pick up and learn from, like this one, the better off you are. The more you read. That's my number one rule for you. Read everything you can get your hands on, okay? I wish I had one penny for every book of paranormal that I've read. I would be very wealthy, okay? And I not only read them, my friends, reread them. Sometimes you get more when you reread it. That's what I was talking about, my friend Bigfoot Michigan Rob's book. I said, I reread it because I got more out of it the second time when I read it, because especially when it comes to a lot of eyewitness accounts, okay? That's what you need to do. Reread it, And I'm going to talk about another important aspect of investigative research, okay? And that is the interview. When you go to interview people, okay, let's say you got an eyewitness. I had a case one time, Bigfoot case, where I actually interviewed the eyewitnesses, and I could tell they were very upset by this. These people were genuine. It wasn't a fake thing. It was a real genuine thing, and I found a little evidence about it afterwards. I won't talk about it tonight. That'll be one of my cases I'll talk about in the future. But anyway, when you interview people, you get a much better story, but you've got to interview people the correct way, okay? If you don't, you'll miss what may be possible. And people need to also, and here's one thing you don't have control over, but you need to work with it as much as possible. People are not often honest with you sometimes. They may not tell you the whole story. They may be afraid to do that. Here's the number one thing. They'll say, well, I didn't tell you that because I thought you would think I was crazy. I say, listen, I'm the last person in the world that's going to think you're crazy, okay? You can tell me, okay, because I've seen and heard a lot. I'm not saying I've seen and heard everything, but I'm darn near close to it, okay? And I'll tell them, no, don't let that bother you. Be honest with me. Tell me the whole story. Tell me what you felt. I've even had to ask women if they've been sexually molested by some of these things. Well, I've had to ask people, how scared were you when you saw Dog Man? Did you wet your pants when you saw him, or what happened? I want to know. I want to know the whole thing. You need to tell me everything that happened, because that helps me with the pieces of the puzzle to put together so that I can assemble the picture I need to see. And that's where the interview comes in as being all very important. When you interview these people, make sure you don't hold anything back, and make sure, though, you get the honest, gospel honest truth out of them as much as possible, okay? I've had a lot of problems in the past when people were not being honest with me for whatever reasons they were doing that for. That impeded my progress in their investigation and being able to help them if that was the need, if that was the case. When you come upon a case of investigation where people are involved and the well-being of people is involved, you've got to get deadly serious with that. Okay, folks? I'm not going to pull punches on that. You've got people's welfare in your hands. You need to be very deadly serious about that and be very, very, very careful with that, because that is a huge responsibility. You're there not to hurt these people, but to help them. Give them a solution. And I've often said, if I don't know what the solution is, we'll look for it together. But I'm on your side. I'm here to help you with that. And that's what people need. They need you to be serious about it. That's why I say I don't like these groups that are just social clubs. Oh, we went so-and-so and we had fun. We got scared and we all went out and had drinks later. Well, that's not helping anybody. Unless it's just a regular location with nobody's involved. I'm talking about when you go out to help people and people want a solution or some kind of an answer to their problem. If you can't give it to them, find somebody, by gosh, it will. Because it's very important. These people need help. And if you're just there for whatever your superficial reason is to have fun and do it, you're not there for the right reason. Okay, I'm sorry to tell you that. And you've got people's welfare in your hand. That's a very serious thing, okay, that you've got to remember. Now, I'm going to dabble just a little bit in demonology here. I've had a lot of questions about it. I'm just going to give you a little bit of rundown on some of the signs. Well, there's the types of hauntings. We know that. I'm not going to get into that tonight. The different types of hauntings. You have residual hauntings. You have, matter of fact, this Friday night at 8 o'clock on Paranormal Point of View, I will be talking about one of my cases, Eyewitness Paranormal Point of View. And it had to do with some type of residual type haunting. I'll get into that later. But anyway, let me see if I can find this. Well, this will be good here. Okay. The 10 basic rules of paranormal investigation. Never, ever investigate alone. Number 2, the safety and security of you and your team is paramount. Okay. The client, if there is one, along with the integrity of your professionalism, comes only a close second to the safety and security of your team. No matter how curious you are, never break the law under any circumstances. Okay. When investigating the supernatural and the unknown, one must always walk a fine line of skepticism and belief. It is most important to always keep a skeptical eye. However, it is just as important to keep an open mind. Okay. Number 6, just because there's no activity at the time you investigate doesn't mean there is no activity at all. Okay. That's very important to remember. 7, the absolute truth of the matter is what you must always seek. It does not matter how unpopular, improbable, and impossible it may seem. Number 8, if in doubt, throw it out. Never present evidence that is not solid and pronounced. If you have to squint to find it or strain to hear it, it is not worth presenting. Okay? Number 9, in the true field of paranormal research and study, there are no experts. There are only those who have had more experience than others, but all who take up this study must always remain students of it. Number 10, once paranormal activity takes place at a location, it is very reasonable that there can be a reoccurrence of paranormal activity in that same location. So it is without a doubt that location should be held in accordance with future reinvestigation. Okay? And always remember that. And remember, not me, not anybody else in this world, the best teacher of all is experience. Don't ever forget that, okay? The best teacher of all is experience. Now, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the signs of possible demonic oppression, okay? Listen very carefully. These are unaccountable bruises, marks, scratches, and also bite marks. Scratches will most often appear in sets of 3. Neglect of personal appearance and hygiene, a worried and depressed nature, an almost constant feeling of being watched, strange coincidences in paranormal activity, especially around the hours of 2, 3, and 4 o'clock a.m., strange whispers, messages, and communications, bad and violent type dreams of blood and death. Now, these are the signs of demonic oppression, okay? Seeing shadows and darkness where none should exist. Feelings of death and gloom and impending destruction. Seeking to alter the consciousness and will of the mind. Unusual illness and withdrawal from society. Strange fascination with death and places of the dead. Restlessness and insomnia, especially around 3 a.m. Hearing voices and hearing your name called. Hearing screams or growls that have no source. The strange smell of sulfur, the smell of decaying flesh, and the smell of something burning which has no known source. Intense reaction to or increase in paranormal activity in the presence of religious objects, or the mention of religious names, prayers, and symbols, and also a strong negative reaction to holy water, the holy wafer, breast closses, and salt. Physical and mental sickness may often accompany these indications. That's from Beyond the Shadows. That's just a little bit, folks, okay? I'm not pushing this book tonight, but I would love for you to have it, not just because I'm trying to sell a book. I would love for you to have the information that is contained in this book, okay? So think about it. You can find it on Amazon. It's ready. You can buy it in a Kindle version, or you can buy it in a paperback, whichever way you want to go with it. But I would hope for you to have it next time that you go out into the field, especially before you go out in the field. So our seminar is drawing to a close, and there are one more thing I want to talk about, okay, and to get into this thing about investigation and all this stuff. This is what it says at the beginning of the book. I'm going to read it to you here. Hold on a second. I will tell you this. It takes a certain special kind of person who will leave the warmth and safety of home and with flashlight in hand go wandering in God-forsaken places in the dead hours of the night, where few would venture, to walk into the unknown windswept darkness and navigate through ancient ruins and abandoned buildings, and to explore graveyards, deserted houses, forests, and the shadowed places of the earth, searching, always searching for the truth. Yet, you never know what you may encounter when you go face to face with the mysteries of this world and dare to shake hands with the unknown. And my last part of this lecture is Do that. Dare to shake hands with the unknown. The unknown is all around us in the mysteries of this world. One day I will die and leave these mysteries behind, and I will become a part of that mystery. That's my motto. Omnia exuit in mysterium. All things end in mystery. But we should dare to face that darkness and that unknown. H.P. Lovecraft said the greatest fear is the fear of the unknown. And you take away a lot of the power of that fear when you make the unknown known. And that's one of our jobs as investigators, to make that unknown known. We're laying the foundations for perhaps a new science. One day it will be seen that way. Now it is discredited by all who call themselves scientists. Well, one day it may be a new science. I call it spiritual science because it has a lot to do with that aspect of the world around us, the unseen. I wrote a book called The Road Unseen, a paranormal journey into high strangeness. There is so much around us that we can't see, but it's there. It does not make it no less exist because we can't see it. We can't see the wind, but it can blow houses down and blow trees down, although it's unseen completely. It's there. It's real. The microbes that are on our skin, we can't see them, but they're there. They definitely are. Some of them can be bad boys. So that's the way this goes. There's so much of this universe around us that is so unseen and unfathomable and mysteries to us. The good book says, one day will we see now darkly through a glass. One day all things will be made known to us. Until then, we should chase the mysteries. We should dare to shake hands with the unknown when we need to. We need to go out in those woods and look for those things, or go to that house and check out what's going on there. Maybe help out some people that need help, or go to some of these haunted locations where strange lights and noises have been seen and try to understand what's going on there. There is absolutely nothing wrong in this whole world with doing that. Okay, and I encourage you to do that. It will make your life a lot better. It will put the icing on your cake, okay, and make it taste a whole lot better. And that's the way that works. So I encourage you not just to do armchair research, although that's great too. That's fun too. But get out in the field and find out these places and investigate these mysteries. Shake hands with the unknown. It is waiting for you out there, okay? In my small way, I try to present the unknown to you to get you to understand some of it and to enjoy and appreciate it the way I do, And believe me, it is something near and dear to my heart. It has always been. This is me. This is a part of the fabric that makes me me. And I try to impress that on others, that yes, it's waiting for you out there. And what would this world, would this universe be without its mystery? It would be a very sad and sorry place. In my book, I don't know about yours, but it certainly would be in mine. This is what makes living, to me, essential. This is what makes living enjoyable. And I would advise you to get out and go for your goals and check these things out for yourselves and get involved in some of this and understand the things that are going on, not just in the seen world around us, but in the unseen world. Because guess what? Surprise, surprise, they're all connected. It's all connected. The pieces of the puzzle will all fit together, but guess what? We've got to put the pieces together to get it to fixate that way. Okay. So anyway, that's the conclusion of my lecture tonight on how to hunt the shadows. This is just a little tip of the iceberg. Okay. It would take hours and hours and hours to cover this, and that's why you need the book. And we maybe in the future we will have some more lectures on some of this stuff. But for now, that's what we're going to wind up with. So I'm going now to open forum and to take your questions and observations. Connect with me and tell me what you feel and give me your thoughts. Okay. Thank you, Aussie Sue. And I'm glad you could be here. This is not the end of the program now. This is the open forum part. We got 30 more minutes, and we're going to talk about what you want to talk about, what questions you have. If you have any questions about the signs of demonic oppression, Have you got any questions about how to investigate? Whatever you want to talk about, I am here for it. So let's go. Oh, wet my whistle. My my last seminar got cut a little bit short because I ran out of power. I was on battery power, and so it got about 20 minutes short. I'm gonna give you the full 2 hours tonight, okay? So sorry, you don't see. Okay, that's okay. So stick around. We got some stuff to talk in your book. You separate psychic investigation from empirical. Yeah, I don't get too deep into psychic investigation per se in this book. The metaphysical part of it. I think that would probably have to be another book for that matter, because it is a very deep subject. Um, but yeah, you want to look for empirical evidence. That's your main goal. That you can absolutely prove what just like finding a Bigfoot track or whatever the situation is. You want that empirical evidence. Could you talk about that separation? I'm very interested in psychic investigation. What place do you see it fitting in? Okay, well, that's the metaphysical part. Psychic investigation would, of course, entail using psychics or getting in touch with psychics on certain situations like that, like remote viewing or telekinesis and all this other stuff. That's part of the metaphysical thing. Psychic investigation is more or less exploring the human mind. When you get into it, it's fascinating stuff. ESP and all this other stuff, clairvoyance, deja vu, and all these other things. That's a very important part of what's called true and psychic investigation. Now, let me say this about psychic investigation. It used to be tagged as everything covering the paranormal. That was called psychic. That was the old name for paranormal. It was called psychic investigation. But true psychic investigation has to do with the metaphysical part. In other words, the metaphysical part is how the unseen interacts with the seen. And that takes place with the human mind a lot of times, okay? And so you go into the aspects of the human mind. That's what psychic investigation is all about. If there's mind reading going on or a porting, you heard of a porting, or whatever the situation is connected with the psychic investigation thing. Okay. It can fit in, but only when it has to do. It can also be an aspect of psychic investigation. Can also be a part of demonology to understand what's going on with someone's mind and understand how he is being attacked in that respect. That's another part of that. So there you go again. It overlaps. A lot of these things are connected and they overlap. That's why when I set out many decades ago to go into this stuff, I said I want it all. I want the whole globe. I don't want just a little part of it, because I believed then, and I found out later that I was very correct in that. It is all connected. Okay, it is, and that's the big mystery of it all. Why is it all connected? But anyway, thank you, Russell. And do you believe there's actual demon forces overlaying a person's face, or the viewer has a visual or cognitive disorder? That is, Sweet Pea, that the demon face syndrome is a very, very rare supposedly thing. It's touched upon a little bit in the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose. You see her having sort of kind of a reaction to that, but it turned out it was really demonic and not in her mind. The demon face syndrome is very, very rare. It's so rare that although it can be recognized as being something, it's not that not that prevalent. If somebody were coming to me and saying that they were seeing something like that, I'd have to take into account what other things are going on with them, not just that. You can't base your whole investigation on one little aspect of something. You got to take in the whole ball. Okay, that's the way it goes. Do you believe there's why do you think demon face syndrome is suddenly in the news cycle, especially because it's rare? I think it's something somebody hit on and trying to It's like some of these glory hounds, they find something and they think they can run with it and it makes them well known and famous. I've heard of it before many years ago, yeah, but like I say, it is very, very rare. And I think it has a lot to do with the eye. The eye and the mind, the brain are connected, and it tries to see images. That's where you get pareidolia at, and that's why so many people get mad at me because I talk about They don't even want to talk about pareidolia because they think everything that they think they see is real. But that's not true in this world. The mind is trying to get images from the mind, from the eye. It's always trying to get images and patterns and trying to make sense out of what it's seeing. That's just the way your mind works. But you got to be careful and not let it trick you into that, you know. And that may be a little bit connected with the demon face syndrome thing going on, you know, that your mind, and especially though, I'd have to check a person with that to make sure they exhibit other signs of demonic oppression, like turbo cancer. Yeah. You know, some diseases, Krakenfoot, are demonically driven. You know, I'm going to make that statement, and people don't like to talk about this much, but it is a well-known fact that some diseases are precipitated by demonic activity. Some demons foster disease stuff. That's a real deep subject. I'm not going to get into that tonight. But yes, I believe the demonic can foster illness in people. You see that very prevalent in the Bible. What do you think about news clips showing weird things like the reporter who caught a fly with an extended long tongue? Well, I think you got to be careful, John. A lot of this AI now has really, I'm going to say this, AI has really infected our world. And we just don't realize what extent it has so far and how it's going to be in the next few years. My gosh. They are twisting our reality for a reason. There's a reason, man. Like I said earlier in the lecture, look at the origins. Look where something comes from. Then you can figure out maybe why the reason of it is going on. And these things have an origin and a reason behind them. They're trying to twist our very reality because the more they can twist our reality, the more control they can get over us. And they're doing it in many different ways, John. That fly catching reporter was the one reporting on demon face syndrome. Yeah, he's probably looking for a Pulitzer Prize or something. He's going about it the wrong way. Plus, it seems like once it's out there and the cycle is contagious, could it be it's real? It's virus traveling through the signals? Makes you wonder. You can have viral viruses, and then you can have media viruses. I do believe they exist. It's like once one person gets it and it passes it on and keeps going on and gets bigger and bigger. Like the eclipse, you know, that we just recently had. Oh, it's the end of the world, doomsday. Folks, there's been eclipses ever since the beginning of this world. But they make a big thing out of it. The only thing I said about the eclipse is just to be careful because paranormal activity takes up a little bit bigger beat during darker periods of time. That can even be 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning, okay? You don't have to be an eclipse. We ain't seen nothing yet, Krakenfoot says. Absolutely. Just wait. Enjoyed the show tonight. It's always been something new and always connected for sure. Gotta go batten down the hatches because the weather's getting bad with lights. Oh, okay. See, go do what you got to do, bud. Isn't Whitco the concept viruses of ideas? You hear it and you're infected. Oh, yeah. That's the way words work. You know, we've talked about that before. Words can be power. You know, and people need to be careful and judge the words that they use against other people, especially. Words are very powerful things. We just don't really realize how spiritually powerful they can be. Definitely. And how do you pass a lie along? You speak it, and you talk it, and you put it in print or whatever. But it's words, isn't it? That's the way it goes. Now, that dancing thing that happened in towns way back, yeah, that dancing disease, yeah, it was a mania. You know, person one gets it, and the other person thinks, "Oh, I might have it too." You know, it's a psychological thing that goes over into psychic research too, by the way. Shared hallucinations on the medieval dancing play, yeah, shared hallucinations. That's strange to think about, but that's true. Yeah, people are conditioned to be open to suggestion. People are some people are more suggestive than others. That's why I say that with investigation, you should always have good discernment. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have that right here on my clipboard. Uh, uh, Discern to learn and learn to discern. Okay, I know that sounds confusing. I didn't say it because I didn't want to mess anybody up. But discern to learn and learn to discern. It's very important that you remember that. That's a good motto. Okay. I think demon face syndrome was just a cover trying to hide what's really coming upon the earth. This demon showing themselves. That's another possibility. That may be why that was put out there. I thought about that too, Wizard Moon. Maybe it's just a way to cover up some of these reptilian things that people say they're seeing and stuff. I said, oh, they got the demon face syndrome, and it's very rare, but they got something they can blame it on. You know what I'm saying? Open to suggestion probably caused the Salem witch trials along with greed. Oh, absolutely. That's happened down many times through history. Some of those girls may have been sincere, but they just may have been believing something that was not real. But they got that psychosis thing going on. One girl had, and the other girl said, I probably got it too. This is what we call shared hallucinations or a manifestation of psychosis in these shared people. It's weird stuff. I've seen it happen. It's like that old game we used to play. You would line people up and whisper something in one guy's ear, and by the time it got down at the end of the line, it was something completely different uh, than what was whispered to begin with. That's the way it works with people's minds. The way they assimilate stuff is strange, but that's the way it goes. Better answer that phone, John. Okay, I think. Let's see what else we got here. Well, I was going to ask you, speaking of extreme right wing shift as the pendulum swings a little too far. That's politics, you know, where it goes. That's where the Bible said the beast comes up out of the sea. The sea represents the world of politics. It's always moving and going, the game of Tiki, Tiki telephone. Oh yeah, telephone. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got you. I forgot about what they called it. Yeah, as in Salem witch trials. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Probably the real witches got away. The real witches probably were in power. They might have been the judges or something. You never know. But they were out mainly. It was greed, just to get other people's properties and lands or get back. It was revenge too on some people. If you don't like me, I don't like you. I'll get revenge on you, kind of a thing. That's the way people work, unfortunately. And it was bad enough then. It's a whole lot worse now. Guarantee you it is. That's what my next seminar is going to be. Okay, and we'll talk about that for a few minutes next week at the same bat channel at 8 o'clock p.m. next Wednesday night. How to fight the shadows. I'm going to tell you how to protect yourself and your loved ones, what to do to fight against the darkness in this world. You do not want to miss this all important lecture. Okay, this all important seminar, how to fight the shadows. And that's next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Be here. You don't want to miss this one, believe me. And Friday night, paranormal point of view at 8 o'clock. We're going to have some interesting, I got some movie reviews. I'm going to talk about eyewitness paranormal point of view. I'm going to talk about some of my cases that I had. I got some other surprises in store. Be here Friday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Hunting the Shadows Podcast YouTube channel for paranormal point of view. If you wanted to hang out your shingle as a paranormal investigator, how would you start? How do you get the first client? Word of mouth usually is the best way to go. But if you're going to get into paranormal investigation, I would advise you to take a course in it. There are courses, usually online courses, and it will certify you as a paranormal investigator. You don't really need that, John, but the reason why I recommend it is you got a, some people only believe in certification. Okay, I've run into this problem, which is why I got a doctorate in metaphysics and all this and all that other stuff. I had to go back and get my credentials because some people only pay attention to that. So I would suggest you can become a certified paranormal investigator. And once you got that little title under your belt, then you can go join a group. That's the main thing. If you will join a group, you get more experience that way than going out on your own to start with. I would advise you to do that. Join a good group that sees things the way you see them, that are serious about investigating, not some social club like I talked about earlier, but I mean real serious people that are out to help people and all that stuff. That's where you need to start, okay? And then once you get in the group, you can strike out on your own later when you've learned enough and you've experienced a little bit enough and all that. That would be, in my book, the ideal way to go about it, John. Okay. Comes show sounds great. Thank you, sir. It's pleased my special needs grandson gets targeted, feels helpless and angry. Yeah, children, young children or young adults especially are open targets for these things. Definitely. Yeah, time went by fast. Yeah, it's been well, we're coming up on we have 15 more minutes left, so let's keep going. We're good. And it's great advice, tips, great chat, and it's one sweet Pete. Glad that you were here. And we got about 15 minutes more to go on the clock here. All right, and hope somebody gets a chance to check out that great show I did with my good friend Jessica, the Cryptid Huntress. We had a fantastic show. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, go back and check it. It's on my playlist. Okay, you can go to my YouTube channel and it's on my playlist. That's where I put all this stuff. So you can go back and always check it if you ever want to. Now I have a record of everything, okay? YouTube's keeping it for me. Let's hope they're really good at it. I have a record of all this stuff now. But I will be talking about Friday. I will be talking about one of my most interesting cases. You don't want to miss that. And I might even throw in the Bigfoot case just to sweeten the pot. Oh, it's great. I miss a lot sometimes. Absolutely. That's just like I said about the book. You don't just read a book. In my book, in my opinion, when you read a book, it becomes like a good friend. It doesn't hurt to reread it again because it does a lot more for you when you reread it. Okay, that's just like watching a movie. A good movie deserves to be watched again because you might have missed something in it. I always find something I might have missed, or something I said, oh, I didn't think about that. That's why it's good to rewatch and stuff or reread stuff. Our minds just take it in better. You learn so much better that way. It's because of the chemical changes and the conflicting electrical charges during and around puberty. Yeah, that's got a lot to do with it, and also it makes them more sensitive. They're more sensitive to their environment, and anytime you're more sensitive, women have this problem a lot because they're very sensitive, more so than men in many aspects. They have this problem a lot too. But I'm gonna tell you what. Listen to this. What I'm about to tell you. I know this is gonna sound freaky, and you're gonna say, "Oh, Dennis, you're full of it." Okay, but let me say this: 9 times out of 10, guess who gets attacked in the family first? You want to guess who it is? Come on now. Who is the first one that gets attacked in the family? I'm talking about demonically attacked now. Ah, my only vice. Women experience being observed, huh? No, John's not the child. It is usually mama. It's the woman in the family that gets attacked first. Absolutely. You know why? Who is the real heart of the family? Think about it. That's where you strike at the heart. The children can be secondary. The husband can be secondary too. With his mama, they usually go after. Most of the time, not every time. You can't paint it all with the same brush, but a broad brush. But a lot of times, that's the number one target. It's mama. Mainly because she's a woman, and they are more sensitive to things, especially when it comes to their children and their family. Okay, the mother, the woman, is part of the main link in the family unit, and that's what the demonic goes after every time. Mama. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. But I think it's because of the makeup of woman. They're more sensitive. You know, women are more psychic than men in many aspects because they're in touch with their intuition and sensitivity more so than men. Why that is, a lot can be talked about that. You know, it's a lot of psychological thing. It's being male, for one thing. It's being desensitized by society. A lot of factors in that, but women are more sensitive and more in touch with their intuition. Women are the linchpins of the world. Hey, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. That is very true. Absolutely. And you know what? The demonic knows that. If you could go out of your way to pick the best comic book villain that you could ever come out with against whoever, Superman or Batman or whoever they want to go up against, it would have to be a real honest to gosh demon. Demons are incredibly smart. I'm not giving them, I'm not on their side, okay? I'm not giving them any praise, okay? But they are incredibly intelligent and absolutely dangerous in that respect. But the danger is in really with us and not them as much, because we disregard that thing. You know what I'm saying? Beware of your enemy. Respect your enemy. Although you don't have to like him, you don't love him, you don't want to be like him, respect him because of what he can do to you if you don't. Okay, that's one thing you got to remember. Women have to use their predictive thinking and intuition to survive because we are usually physically weaker than men. Well, that's part of it. But like I say, let me tell you this. If I were to run up on a bear in the woods, I'd rather run up on the male bear than the female with cubs, because the male bear would probably cut you a break. But that female, whew, she ain't gonna do it. She's got the cubs there, and you're in bad trouble, okay? You don't ever want to run up on that. And it's like Rudyard Kipling said, the more dangerous of the species is the female. She'll get you because she's got more to protect. She's got more on the line than the male. And it was not an apple, it was a sex act, this Cain and Abel. Well, you can read that the way you want to. It was actually, I think, a lot of that is symbolic. Yes. Good point. Yeah, there you go. But anyway, be careful of the female. She is the most deadly of the species. That includes the female black widow spider, the praying mantis female. She bites the head of the male off, by the way. You got to watch out for them. They are, here's the funny thing about it. I've always thought this was very funny. I've done a lot, I've studied a lot of biology. I love biology. And here's the weird thing about it. The male in nature is the pretty one. So he has to attract the female. It's not the other way around. Now, we humans have got it backwards. The female's trying to attract the male, but in nature, it's the other way around. The male has to attract the female if he wants to get anywhere. I've always thought that was strange. Naturally defenders. Yes, they are. Women will hold a grudge longer, too. Oh, yeah. That's like we have a saying in the South. If a woman says whatever, she's not just saying whatever. She's saying, you better be good with Jesus because you're fixing to go meet him. You don't cross the woman. You expect to get away with it. Anyway, that's the way that goes. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Okay. Lord, don't I know. Okay. Yeah. Hell hath no fury. woman scorned. There you go. That was very true. Sure, Walter Raleigh's the one said that. I'm not sure, but anyway, um, I hope you all enjoyed the seminar tonight, and you learned. I hope you learned a little something from it. I enjoy doing these, connect with people, and try to get them to have better lives or better outlooks on things. And if you're interested in paranormal research, you will never get bored. I can tell you that. You'll never get bored. This is not a boring subject. Although some people can take anything and make it boring, this is not in itself boring at all. It is an ongoing, constantly learning thing. It is it's like picking up a ball of tar. You can't put it back down. It's gonna stick to you. I had somebody ask me not long ago, Dennis, will you ever retire? I said, not until they shovel dirt in my face. This is just too darn interesting to let go of. I'll never let go of it. I'll always be involved one way or another. And although I don't get out in the field like I used to, I have a lot of physical health problems. I don't get out in the field the way that I used to. You should have known me once upon a time. But I still like to, and be involved in it in whatever way possible that I can. And whatever the case is, I hope if you'll stick with me, we'll learn these things together. Absolutely. And I really appreciate you all being here tonight and tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed and come away with something. If you haven't, please subscribe. I need more and more subscribers. Please advise your friends to subscribe. Please pass the word around to like, share, and subscribe to Hunting the Shadows. We're here not just to hunt the shadows. We're here to help people. That's what somebody asked me the other day. What does hunting the shadows really mean? Are you really trying to catch shadows? No, that's not what it really means. It means we dare to go into the darkness and hunt in the shadows and look for the things that other people are not looking for. We are the ones that we dare that darkness. We hunt the shadows, and that's what it's all about. We're hunting the shadows, looking for the answers to the questions that will haunt us and have haunted us throughout all of our history. That's what Hunting the Shadows is all about. So please tell your friends to subscribe. I need more subscribers, and we're getting there slowly. We're 40 right now. So please tell your friends. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And it's free, doesn't cost anything, and it helps us out tremendously. We need to get the word out there and get more people involved in Hunting the Shadows. I do as much advertising as possible, but the more that you can help me, the better it will be. Definitely. It will really get us out there, hopefully, more and more. God, Superman, man, woman, children. Mike Jones, good to have you here, bud. Hey, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know how that goes, and I hope she's doing better. I'm glad that you are a blessing to her, Mike. I'm glad that you're there for her. Definitely. Sometimes we have assistant angels on assignment, and you, my friend, are probably what would be termed an assistant angel. Okay, and so it's good to have people like you around to help people like in these situations. Definitely. But anyway, I just want to say I appreciate you all for being here tonight. I want to thank you for your support. That means a lot to me. Your support is not me, but my work and my output here and the things that we're trying to get done. That's what's so important, and we need to shine that light in the world today. This world is becoming engulfed with more and more darkness. As I said at the beginning of the show, darkness is walking in our land. Look, the shadows are gathering closer. We need to shine a light in the shadows. That's what you do when you hunt the shadows. You shine a light where the darkness is. And that's what we need to do. We need to be warriors of the light. That's what we need to be. And we need to to push back on this darkness and not let it push us around. Okay, we want to be the warriors and not the victims. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, the darkness wants to keep you as a victim because it fears you as a warrior. And you all, my friends, are warriors, whether you know it or not. At heart, you're warriors, or you wouldn't be here tonight listening to this program, okay? You're all warriors, and you have my deepest respect. And I honor you tonight. And I thank you for joining me in this endeavor. And I hope to see you all again Friday night at 8 o'clock on Paranormal Point of View. I got some surprises for you in store. And we'll get together then, God willing, and the creeks don't rise. Okay? So I lift the parting glass, my friend, until once more we meet again. And I thank you so much for allowing me the time in this little aspect of your life. And I appreciate your being here. And I will leave you with Omnia Exuit in Mysterium. All things end in mystery. And remember, Veritas and Equita, truth and justice. Carpe diem sees the night, and Carpe noctem sees the night. Carpe diem sees the day. And Godspeed until we see each other again. Hunting the shadows.